Hey there, welcome to Trellis Tech Talks. I'm Diane, the previous owner of Fat Cat Flowers, and we are here today to talk about automated invoicing. In my last talk, we talked about how much I loved recipes and how they're the secret to profitability, but these automated invoices are the secret to efficiency. They really are kind of a set it and forget it feature that I think is really underrated and really underutilized. So if you're not doing invoicing, this is your meeting. You're going to love this. So I'm going to start this by heading over to settings. And in the settings down here in the center, we have the invoice schedules. And one of the secrets to making these work great is to just have a schedule for every possible instance. So if you get a corporate account and they're booking really early, go ahead and set one up where it does a deposit. And then it has one where you will bill them for right away for something at the end of the week. Having the right schedule with the right documentation attached to it makes it super efficient. And you can see here on the screen that we've got that. So I've got my corporate set up if it's going to be a quick thing, probably within 30 days, and then one for longer out where they might want to make a deposit and have some changes that get made over the course of time. The same for rehearsal dinners. I have a couple of different single payment options, one that has the credit card processing fee included and one that does not. This schedule is particularly interesting because it has a booking fee and then two additional payments. So what this means is that the client called and they said, we want to book you, but we don't know what we want to do yet. So I'm like, great. You're going to sign a contract. You're going to pay me $5,000 and you've got the date. I'm on the books. And I have a minimum in place so they know that they're going to have to spend at least X amount going forward. So that's a great schedule. And then I have my default. My default wedding schedule was to take a retainer upfront of 30%, to get my second 30% 60 days before the ceremony, and then to get my final payment 30 days out. And we're going to look at these a little bit in detail, and then we're going to go take a look at the documentation that's attached to it, because you can't have a good invoice schedule without having really good invoice emails that go with it. So let's take a look at this retainer fee. So we're going to drill in here to the details. And you can see that, oh, see this says $200. I want more. So 0 days after I load this schedule, I'm going to invoice this client for $5,000. I'm calling it a booking fee. The notes in here say your date's not secure until your booking fee is received and your contract is signed. And then the line item shows a non-refundable booking fee. I like to say non-refundable every chance I get. I don't send an email message with my initial booking fee because I'm sending a contract at the same time, and I'll show you how that works. But I do have a late payment invoice that goes out. I want this payment within 3 days. I expect them to pay me online. You can give them 15 days or whatever suits you. These fields down here, we don't really have to fool with. You have in your settings whether or not the client is going to pay your credit card processing fees, and that's the default here. But you can choose that as well if you want that to be a pull down. And then here's the fee that just says what we call it. Wherever you see rep account and Trellis, this is a QuickBooks feature, and so it's not something that we're going to be concerned with here and now. So that's what our retainer looks like. And each one of these payments, each one of these scheduled invoices has a little bit of a different flavor. Here, if we look at this, which is my second payment, for a booking fee, we might want to say something that's a little bit more oriented towards, now that you've made some decisions or we've made some design choices, here's what we've got. So now I'm asking for more money. So it's their first wedding payment for flowers. Invoice details, these words are what's going to show up on the invoice itself, and I'm going to show you that a little bit down the road. So in here, we could say something like, now that we are in design mode, it is time for the second payment. Or first payment. We call it our first payment, sorry. So you're going to add this in. I'll show you where it shows up on your invoices and we'll go from there. This is what shows up on the line item. And then again, this is generated 75 days before the wedding and they have 15 days to pay. So really I'm looking at something that's due at the 60-day mark. And here is the invoice email message that's associated with that. So I can click down here and I can see all of my options. This is the one that I've written specifically for this schedule. It's the first payment with a booking fee. I use the same late payment notice for everybody. And again, these are defaults, so we're just going to save that. The third one has one critical element, and that's this one that says 30 days before event. So I'm sending this 45 days before the wedding because they've got 15 days to pay. This is their final payment for wedding flowers. Again, we can add more detail in here. We can say things like, you know, invoice must be paid in full 30 days prior to the wedding. Changes after this time may incur additional fees. Sorry, there's a typo in there. And then this is just a line item. Again, I'll show you where these goes. My wedding final payment email is the same kind of for all of the different schedules. Yours can be different if you want it to be different. Same late payment schedule that they will get 15 days after the original invoice comes out if we haven't marked it paid. So now that we've seen the schedule itself, and we'll build one as we go through, let's take a look at the documents that are associated with it. So back to settings. And then over here on the document templates, let's just take a look at these before we dig into the invoices. So this is where you add up here. And you can see there are a bunch of different types of templates that are available to you. And some of these are only available in certain spaces. Like you can only see the invoice notification emails when you're working with an invoice schedule or making invoices manually. So those are pretty specific. I mentioned earlier that I require a signature. I get digital signatures on my contracts. So my first email that goes out to my client after they say that they booked is not going to be an invoice email. I don't want to really lead with that. I want to lead with something that says, oh, yay, you've booked me, sign your contract, pay your deposit. So let's take a look at that. Here's a signature request for a wedding. And here I am saying, we're delighted to be doing your wedding flowers, spelling out how this is going to work. I'm always very clear that they can make a payment by check for free or online. We're going to charge you the fee. I'm giving them my address, la, la, la. So here, this is all the pieces and parts. And then when we actually apply this to a bill, I'll show you where you add your signature in. So that's very specific for this email. And then we can look at those other email invoices that we've made. Like here's that second payment for weddings. Just a couple of months ago, time for you to make your second payment and to follow up with an appointment. I like to schedule an appointment 60 days out so I can double check on things like, is your grandmother coming? Have you made any table change numbers? Here, let me try that again. Have you made any changes to your table numbers or something like that? Fired a bridesmaid. This is when I schedule that appointment. And I actually put a Calendly link in mine so that they can schedule a time right here to figure that out. And so then they've got links here to go to the portal. Here's another great link down below that says view your invoice. If they wanted to send this email to their mother-in-law or someone else, they can use this link to pay without logging into the portal. And you can see up here on this bar, these are the links that are available to you. Lots of things about the recipient, lots of info about the invoice, including balances. So you can add more financial information in here if you want to. And then when it says your account, it means you, the florist account. So this is your company name, that kind of stuff. And then the portal link is just the portal link. And here's where that second invoice link is. Again, sometimes when other people are paying, they don't want to have to fool with the portal. So that's where you go to grab that link. And we could add something a little bit more wordy there to make it a little bit more clear. And then our third one here is our final invoice. Let's see. Invoice final payment. Just a month to go. We're getting ready to order your flowers and put together a schedule. It's also time for your final payment. And they can view their invoice here. Again, I could add that other portal link in here and just change up my words a little bit. I tell them that there are tentative schedules in the portal, that I'm finalizing details with the planners, the venues, bakeries, etc. So that should trigger 45 days before the wedding. They're going to get this or whatever my schedule says. And then they have a 15-day window to pay it in. So now that we've seen the two pieces that work together, the schedule and the documents, let's go back over to our schedule and put one together. So back over here into event invoice scheduling. Let's take a look at this wedding that has just two payments, because I think this will be helpful for you. And I'm just gonna delete these so we can build them from scratch. Okay, so did not delete the whole thing. Sneaky little thing. Okay, so here is my wedding two payments. So say somebody booked me kind of last minute, and so I'm going to get a payment of 50% up front, and then I'm going to get the balance 30 days before. So I'm going to say non-refundable deposit and balance at 30 days. All right, let's make this happen. So now I get this little plus sign here, and my first payment, my non-refundable deposit, is going to be 50%. So 0 days after I load the schedule. So today, I want 50%. It has to be paid within 15 days. I'm still going to show you where these show up, but this can be very succinct, this invoice reference field. So I want to say non-refundable deposit for wedding flowers, refundable. The invoice details can be more detailed, like it's a section on your invoice, so you can say a lot of things. And then the final one is right across from the money part. So again, I say non-refundable deposit. Okay, and then the email messages that are associated here, I'm going to want a signature when I send this out. So I'm leaving this blank so that I can send out a signature email instead. But I am going to send them my late payment notice. And then these are all just their defaults. So that's a good one. And then you'll see as we add our second one in, we're only doing 2 payments here. And this is the secret sauce, right? I want this to be the balance, because they may add a bridesmaid, they may take away a table, they may decide they want an arch at the ceremony that they didn't want before. All of those changes, if I just put in another 50%, I may be over or under billing them because the changes have taken place as we go through. So this is right for me. 45 days before the wedding, I have given them a 15-day grace period, and this is their full and final payment for wedding flowers. And then this can say a lot more detail, and it should say things like changes made after 30 days may incur additional fees. Sorry, I can't type and talk. All right, and then here they're going to get my final message, my wedding final payment message, which is kind of always the same, and my same old late payment message. And that's it. So we've made a schedule, which is awesome. Full and final payment. Let's go apply it to somebody and see what happens. So here we are in events. I am going to take this, let's see. I'm going to take this wedding here that already has some, oh, it doesn't have invoices. Great. So, and let's load that schedule. So here's a $25,000 wedding that forgot to book with their florist until the last minute. So I'm going to load a schedule. The default is what shows up, which is my standard wedding schedule, but I can come in here and I can grab this wedding 2 payments. So I'm going to grab that and it's going to adjust. See, there's no notification here. That's because of that signature that I'm going to request. So I'm going to let it create these invoices. And I'm the client on here, so I can send this out. But really what I want to do is just let this be. So I've created my invoices. Now I'm going to head over here to the proposal section, and in the drop down wedding, I have a wedding contract. So I'm going to grab this wedding contract, and I can see I've done this already. So these would be blank if I hadn't already done this. So to do this, you just add yourself, and you can send them as many contracts as you want. So if somebody makes a big change, a big deletion or addition, and you want that reviewed and signed off on, you can send this as many times as you want. So I'm going to add myself here as a signature. Already assigned. All right, doesn't want me to do that, probably because it hasn't been signed yet. But then when I come here to request my signature from my bride, and I would have to choose who that is. You see, I get options for this. So signature request, wedding, 2 payments, wedding with a booking fee. So again, the more detail you have in there, the better your communication is going to be with the bride without you having to do anything. So we're delighted to be doing your things, all the things. Here's where you pay. But what it says in here, a non-refundable booking fee of 50% and an executed contract are required. So when it sends us out, it is going to ask her today to make that payment and to sign her contract. So now that we've done that, before we go back and peek again, let's just look at those invoices. So back down here in financials, if you click on the little green invoice, you can see the 2 invoices that we made. Let's look and see where those 3 fields that we fill out in the schedule, how they look on the invoice. The invoices themselves are very thin in Trellis. There's not a lot of meat to them. So it's important that the email that accompanies it says the things that you want it to say. So I'm just going to take a look at this, and I'm going to click that. And so here is where we're getting that detail. So the first field says non-refundable deposit for wedding flowers. This is the little section here where it says a lot of things. So this is where you want to say, what your terms are for this. Your date is not finalized, or your date's not held until I get a contract and deposit, whatever you want to say in there. And then this is the item is just what goes across from the dollar amount. So that one can be pretty simple. So the top and the bottom one can be simple. The other ones, you probably want to take a minute and put a little more meat in there. Okay, so let's just take a minute to walk back through there. So we're back in our settings. The invoice schedule all lives in here. And again, you can be as detailed as you want it to be. And then over here in the settings, it's the document templates, signature requests, and invoice payments that are specifically in for those things. And now we've seen where they set it up. Let me just check my notes to make sure I've told you everything that I really want to tell you. There's one more that I send out as well, or that I put in here, these invoice schedules, and that's for items added after the final payment. I actually have a fee that I charge. Like if somebody makes big changes, I charge 20% if it's in that 30-day before the wedding window. So I have this single payment request that I have set up, and I actually haven't set it up because this is not my fat cat, but it is it's your balance again, right? So you can tell it, and I want this within 5 days, and this is for additions after the final payment. And then in the details, you might even say like adding a stage front, adding an extra table, whatever that is. And then here you would just say additions. And you'd have a specific email message for this that goes out. I don't have one whipped up, but we would add one. And then the late payment. This is one you'll have to really keep up with to make sure that you get that back in time. So one more thing, I'm going to switch back over to my events to show you this. If you're not using invoices. So let's say this girl decides at the last minute that she's going to, let's say she wants to add a grandmother or something like that. Probably bigger than that. If somebody added a grandmother at the last minute, I'm not charging her for it. I'm just doing it. So maybe she's decided that instead of just having the arch at the front, she wants an arch at the back. So we're going to add another arch. So now you can see my numbers are off here. So when I hit this schedule button, if these have not been paid, then it will adjust the current schedule, right? So if I hit update here, it's just going to distribute those funds in my 50%. If these had been paid, it wouldn't let you do that because the invoice has already been paid. So that's when you would come here and you would add that schedule for the additional invoice. And I also never give people refunds. So I'm sure I could figure out how to do that for you, but don't do it. Don't give them a refund. That's it for today's Trellis Tech Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope it was informative. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us at any time. We're here for you.